We're hearing that the Prime Minister has spoken out against recent developments in the assassination of the case involving the assassination of Rajiv Gandhi. We're hearing that he said that no government or party should be soft in its fight against terrorism. He said that the release of the killers of the former Prime Minister of India would be contrary to all principles of justice. So the Prime Minister speaking over there for the first time following Jayalalitha's decision to release all four of Rajiv Gandhi's assassins. Remember, she's now forwarded that decision to the Ministry of Home Affairs for approval. Just here, the Prime Minister speaking out, calling this decision by the Jayalalitha government contrary to the principles of justice, and that's exactly what the government stand in the Supreme Court is. Jaskirat, if you can hear me, the Prime Minister saying that Jayalalitha's decision is against the principles of justice, a similar stand taken by Attorney General in the Supreme Court.
Well, that's correct. The Solicitor General will now be arguing this case in the Supreme Court because the Attorney General will be out of the court for that duration. But keeping that aside, that is one of the main contentions where the government actually, before the statements were made in the Parliament by the Law Minister or even the Prime Minister, the Centre's counsel in the Supreme Court informed the Chief Justice of India that the Centre is in the process of filing two review petitions. The first one would be against the January Shatrughan Chauhan judgment where 15 death sentences were commuted, and the second would be against the Rajiv Gandhi assassins judgment where their death sentences were commuted to life in prison. So the Centre wants the Supreme Court to put a stay or a spanner in the Tamil Nadu government's decision or process until and unless their review petition is decided upon. Now, the Kapil Sibal in the Parliament has made a statement saying that the review petition will be filed today itself. Review petitions will be considered only in chambers, which is outside of open court. So it's a wait and watch whether or not the Supreme Court agrees. As far as today is concerned, the Centre's plea to actually consider a stay on this particular process will be taken up at close to noon. The Solicitor General again will be arguing for the Centre.
All right, Jaskirat, I want to go on to these decisions about the commutation of death sentences in particular, because we know that so far Justice Satyasivam has been consistent on this principle. On the 24th of January, commuting the sentence of as many as 15 death row convicts, again reinforcing the decision day before yesterday, and now the government approaching the Centre once again. Is there likely to be a change of mood here?
Well, it's a wait to watch because what we are seeing over here, the Centre is going to be filing a review petition against the death sentences, but that is yet to be filed. But what is going to happen today is the question or the spanner in actually getting them released. So those are two very different topics which will be taken up in different manners by the Supreme Court. Today is a question of whether or not they can be released, because even the Prime Minister has come out to say that it's not a legally tenable decision. Now, the mood of the Supreme Court, whether or not it will change with regards to the commutation of the death sentence, one has to see what exactly is it that the government finds at fault with that judgment. The Supreme Court felt that an inordinate delay in deciding on the mercy petitions is an extra punishment being meted out because it creates it's a torture of sorts for the person to be waiting while awaiting the gallows for a decision to be taken on whether or not the mercy petition has been admitted or not. The Supreme Court felt that it was a violation of Article 21 of the right to life and personal liberty. Does the government intend to question that particular aspect of the judgment, or are there other facets of the judgment that the government plans to question? Once they file the review petition, we are going to get a further clarity on what aspect of that judgment was it that the government actually finds questionable, whether they are actually planning a ban, an across-the-board challenge to all the death sentences that were commuted.
All right, Jaskirat, stay with us. Javed Ansari, our National Affairs Editor, is also live with us right now. Javed, I want to come across to you on the government stand, because yesterday, as we know, there were differing voices. P. Chidambaram saying in an interview that he was not unhappy with Jayalalitha's decision. All of that changed once Rahul Gandhi spoke, and now the Prime Minister himself coming out very strongly and saying Jayalalitha's decision is against the principles of jurisprudence.
Well, absolutely, and they've all taken the cues from the family, especially Rahul Gandhi, after he made that emotive intervention in Amethi yesterday. Till then, they were all ambivalent. They were resigned to the fact. In fact, some of them even said that they were not unhappy. However, all that changed within a matter of few hours after Rahul Gandhi made that intervention, and now you have none less than the Prime Minister coming out and reinforcing, trying to reiterate and underline the importance that, the strong feeling that the Congress party has on this issue.
Javed, we want to also talk about what's happening in Rajya Sabha itself, because I beg your pardon, what's happening as far as the politics of this goes, because on the one hand you have Jayalalitha, who seemingly expected the government to take this up in the Supreme Court, expecting the government to challenge it legally. This is sort of almost pushing the government into a fight with her ahead of the elections on this very emotive issue.
Well, certainly she would like to be the champion, to be seen in the eyes of the Tamil electorate as the champion of Tamil rights, of the Tamil cause. And this is an emotive issue, and she wants to encash this. She's not the only one who's tempted by this prospect. There are lots of different political parties at different times, points of time, have used issues to try and curry favor with the masses. And Jayalalitha is just doing just that.